This move makes the Steelers absolutely terrifying as they look to add another star to their offense. My name is Peyton Kleppe, and on today's episode of Steelers Digest, we'll be diving into the latest news regarding a potential trade in Pittsburgh to bring in another pass catcher who can help whatever quarterback will be under center for next year. My name is Peyton Kleppe. Real quick, if you guys are not already currently subscribed, click that subscribe button down below. 91% of our current viewers are not already currently subscribed. So click that subscribe button. We're going to get you guys the daily Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis about anything regarding our Steelers. So let's get right in the news. So like I said, the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking to trade for another star-studded weapon. After we picked up DK Metcalf for a second-round pick, it's looking like we might trade for a tight end. And some analysts have floated some names around, and the newest name is Kyle Pitts. According to Ari Meyer, it could look to be possible as Kyle Pitts did play for Arthur Smith his rookie year, and I believe also his sophomore year. And he did have his best year in the NFL his rookie year. So, bringing him in for Arthur Smith on the offensive side could really open up some doors as it would bring Kyle Pitts to a formidable franchise. And, this guy was an athletic freak coming out of college and in the NFL. He's actually played pretty well. So, obviously, he did get picked very high in the 2021 NFL draft. This guy was looking to be a generational talent at the tight end position, and he was picked number 4 overall by the Falcons, and he did make a Pro Bowl in his rookie year, but obviously he's had some disappointing stats this past couple years. In his 4 seasons, Pitts has caught 196 passes for over 2,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. And last year alone, he recorded 47 receptions for 602 yards and a career-high 4 touchdowns. Pro Football Focus gave him a 59.6 overall grade for his performance and ranked him 33rd out of 37 tight ends in 2024. And he also earned a 63.9 receiving grade and good for 29th in the NFL. He still is an athletic freak in the tight end position. And, playing with a mobile quarterback could unlock his potential. Obviously, we only have 2 quarterbacks on the roster at the moment in Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson. But we have been rumored to bring in possibly Aaron Rodgers if he makes up his friggin' mind. And maybe Jalen Milroe or Jackson Dart in the draft if they do fall to us in the first round. But like I said, Kyle Pitts was a guy that coming out of college, he was looked at as a generational talent. This guy was already on mock drafts as a top 5 pick. Like I said, he did go number 4 overall, but he went to a team in the Atlanta Falcons that are still looking to develop, still looking to grow. Obviously, they have a lot of young talent on that team, but they brought in a lot of other star players that really got the ball a lot more, like Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Darnell Mooney. So obviously, Kyle Pitts kind of fell out of the offense, and with the quarterback play in Atlanta between Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix, and Marcus Mariota, he really has never had a solid quarterback. And I'm not saying if he comes to Pittsburgh, he's going to have another solid quarterback, but he's definitely going to have a lot better coaching in Arthur Smith at the offensive coordinator position and Mike Tomlin at the head coaching position. And he's just going to have a better overall culture in Pittsburgh. Obviously, we have a winning culture. And although we have not made it to the Super Bowl in a while, we are a year in, year out playoff contender. So coming to Pittsburgh, he's going to have the best opportunity he's ever had in his career. So also, writers at Pro Football Network believe that there's a possible reunion between Steelers offensive coordinator Arthur Smith, like I said, and his former tight end in Atlanta Falcons, Kyle Pitts. It could be a possibility because Arthur Smith was the head coach when they picked Kyle Pitts number 4th overall. So obviously he has a ton of belief in Kyle Pitts. I believe he probably still has that same belief and still can use him in the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. We obviously have a lot of depth at the tight end position, but it's always good to add more depth. Always great to have way more players. If you look back to the old Steelers teams and the old New England Patriots teams, when one of their guys would get hurt, they'd have another guy step in and play just as good, if not better. And that's what we need in Pittsburgh. The past couple years, it's really been reliant on heavily just one player like Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, obviously George Pickens, Najee Harris. It's just relying on that one player. So having a ton of depth, adding a guy like Kyle Pitts can really only help our offense. Added into a tight end room with Darnell Washington. Obviously, he's only growing to develop, and he's a huge threat down the field. We got Pat Freiermuth, who's a seasoned veteran in Pittsburgh. Our fans love him, and he's a threat across the middle when healthy. And we got Connor Hayward as well, who's, kind of a gadget guy. We line him up at fullback, but he's also a threat at tight end, and you can throw him in that slot receiver position if you want to. So adding Kyle Pitts is only going to benefit us. He's definitely got some trade value, but I could see in the draft the Pittsburgh Steelers want to trade one of their picks. They definitely have a 4th and a 5th round pick to spare. We did trade our 2nd round pick for DK Metcalf, but obviously if we want to move up and we want to get Kyle Pitts, we could do it. And Pro Football Network wrote that Kyle Pitts could be an underrated trade asset. He's playing out the 5th-year option on his rookie deal after averaging a career low 35.4 receiving yards per game. And Atlanta has already begun an impending mega contract for looming Drake London, and Pitts played under 40 snaps for the first time in his career with a new coaching staff. So, obviously he didn't have the best year last year, but he did have over 600 receiving yards with a few different quarterbacks. So, and the fact that he is playing out his 5th-year option, it could be a 1-year deal in Pittsburgh, just to kind of test the waters with him. See if he does play well, we bring him back in another deal. If not, we let him go and get that compensatory pick. So, adding Kyle Pitts could help our offense, but like I said, we already have a proven guy in Pat Freiermuth, who, fans love this guy. I like this guy a lot. I did see this guy in person. He was dating a girl at the University of Delaware. It's kind of creepy, but I did see him at UD. It was cool to see him. Anyways, Pat Freiermuth, great player, heavily reliant last year. He had a great year, about 600-700 receiving yards, about 5 to 7 touchdowns. Dude was a tank, went on the field. That's kind of been his knock. He's dealt with a lot of injuries throughout his career. Last year, not this year, but the year before this year, especially, he was on and off the field all year. He really didn't play a full season. So bringing in a guy like Kyle Pitts could also help Pat Freiermuth, just take some of the load off of him, have some load management, because we really want to keep this guy for a long term. Obviously, we paid him a pretty significant deal last year. Pat Freiermuth, we gave him a ton of money, so he's going to be our number 1 either way. But bringing Kyle Pitts to be that number 2 tight end, number 3 alongside Darnell Washington can only help us out in the future. And I really like our odds on getting Kyle Pitts. Like I said, Arthur Smith was his former head coach and offensive coordinator at Atlanta. Obviously, Arthur Smith definitely has a ton of belief in Kyle Pitts. And this is really some exciting news for us Steelers fans. We've really not had an offseason where we've added a ton of weapons like we've done this offseason, bringing in a guy like DK Metcalf, who we paid a ton of money and we're relying on for our future. But he really solves that number 2 receiver problem alongside George Pickens. We're going to have a top 10, top 5 receiving duo in the NFL. No matter what quarterback you throw in there, those 2 guys are going to be deep threats on either side of the field. So bringing in a guy like Kyle Pitts is really going to only help us out alongside Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington. That is all I have for you guys tonight on Steelers Digest. If you guys are not currently subscribed, click that subscribe button down below. Thank you so much. Here we go, Steelers. Peace out, boys.